Hey everybody, this is Alyx Coble-Frakes and I am here with Kate Codringtron. She is a fantastic educator, women supporter extraordinaire, and she's going to tell you all about herself in just a second. I'm so excited to have you with us. Thank you so much, Kate. Yay! I have been waiting to be able to bring her to this group. She's just a fantastic wealth of knowledge, and you guys are really going to enjoy learning from her today and with her today. We are doing this pre-recorded and we're going to be uploading it so you guys can put all of your questions down below in the chat. There's just, as you may imagine, Kate's from the UK, so we've got some differences with time zones, and so this is going to be the thing that works out best. So she will be coming back to answer questions. I will be watching the premiere with you guys, so if there's anything that comes up, we are here to support you. So thank you for joining us today, and yeah, let's just jump right into it, Kate. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about your amazing background and what you do.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Alyx. I'm a menstrual and menopause educator, and I facilitate retreats. I write a lot because that helps me think through stuff. And I've been a therapist for more than a quarter of a century, which, yeah, blows my mind. So I write a lot for blogs, and I'm writing a book about menopause at the moment. That's my main thing. And I'm, cycle-wise, I'm kind of post-menopause. And the way I think about that is in seasonal terms. So I feel like I'm in second spring. So if you think about your post-menstruation time before you ovulate, I'm kind of like that. So I'm a bit tender, and I'm kind of like a tortoise, kind of sticking my head out, and then I go, ooh, and I put it back in. And, you know, it's a very exciting time and very tender. So yeah, so here I am in all my kind of spring vulnerability.
And what a great time to be showing that part of yourself. The world could use some tenderness. When things are tough, you know, we can really shell ourselves off. And so there's a lot of courage in remaining open and vulnerable. So that's a beautiful demonstration of that for us.
Well, I think one of the gifts that menopausal and postmenopausal women can offer for the world is to show up in our power, but also with the vulnerability, you know, both hands.
Oh, so good. And we're just getting started. Yeah. So I'm curious, we had talked that, you know, you do a lot with menopausal and kind of perimenopausal women moving through that. That kind of has some parallels with the luteal phase. And so two questions are maybe what are those parallels and what drew you to that specific phase of the cycle in particular?
Well, if you think about the luteal phase as autumn, then the autumn has all these qualities of stripping back. You know, in the summer we're in the fullness of ourselves, and the ovulatory summer phase is the kind of the bit that the world likes about us because we're really nice and we're fertile and we're juicy and we're sexy. And you know, one of my teachers, Uma Dinsmore-Tooley, found some research where the lap dancers actually got more tips when they were ovulating. You know, everybody loves an ovulating woman, and then we cross that border into autumn, into the luteal phase, and then the world doesn't like us so much anymore because we move from pleasing other people and being present for other people into coming into ourselves and coming into our truth. So the kind of the estrogenic veil is removed, and we start to see, oh, okay, so this is what needs to happen now in our autumn. So if we're talking about the luteal phase, and I've forgotten the question. Oh yes, it was about the links between the two. So the luteal phase links to perimenopause because the same thing happens, you know, in our kind of the mid-time of our life. We're kind of juggling business and we're very out there and competent and multitasking and all that kind of stuff. And then we get into, just like we get into the luteal phase, we get into perimenopause and we go, oh, okay, something has to change. So it's a time of assessing, of reflecting, and of really astute discernment. And in order to make friends with your luteal phase and consequently build muscle to make friends with your perimenopausal phase when that shows up in your late 40s, you have to face the negativity. There's no way around it. It's like the bear hunt. You know, there's a kid's story. You can't go under it. You can't go around it. You have to go through it. You know, you have to confront the negativity in our culture about women, about anger, about angry women, about ambitious women, women who demand stuff. Okay. And, you know, we've come a long way, but there's still a lot of negativity around that. And you can't do anything, you can't really get anywhere with your luteal phase, which what you need to do is slow down and pay attention to your body. You can't do any of that until you have made friends with your own shadow self, with your negativity. This is a really long answer because I think there's a really simple question. You know, what can you do to nourish your luteal phase to prepare for perimenopause is slow down? And we all know that. You know that, I know that. Anybody who reads a woman's magazine knows this, but we don't. Because we have to confront the difficult stuff in order to make it happen. Is this making any sense?
Yeah. It's so resonating.
Okay.
And I wonder, because I have felt like this way before. I have seen this echoed in this space, that people kind of think that the luteal phase sucks, or that it's awful, or in particular, you know, I have felt in the past, I don't like myself when I'm in the luteal phase.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, what do you see as the biggest connection of why? Is it because we are going, it's counterculture to embrace the luteal phase, or what is it that makes it so, like, I remember I sometimes feel like itchy in my own skin during the luteal phase.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. It's a beautiful way of describing it. And you're absolutely right. It is to do with our culture. It is to do with the outside, which we, I can't think of the word, which we ingest, you know, we integrate into ourselves, and we learn to hate ourselves in that place. And the purpose of, well, the gift of cycle awareness is that we learn to love all of ourselves. And when we get it wrong one month, we go around again, and we get to, you know, we get to explore it a different way. So one of the things is a cultural thing, but the other thing is a psychological thing. And this is one of my training came from Red School, from Alexandra Pope and Shani Hugo Wurlitzer, who are, please look them up. They have great online courses. They're God's gift to women. I mean, I bloody love them. They're just phenomenal, you know. And what Alexandra's piece that she's brought, one of the most amazing pieces that she's brought to the table, is that in autumn, your ego cracks open. Okay, so we kind of, from, if you kind of take it from after your period, you come round through your spring into ovulation, and your ego is building up. So you come out vulnerable, as I was saying at the beginning, and your ego is building up. And then the purpose of the luteal phase psychologically is to crack open your ego. So that itching that you're feeling, that itching in your skin, you could see that as your real self emerging, of wanting to emerge. Okay, because you can't have, you know, this sort of big puffed up ego getting bigger and bigger and bigger every month, because then you end up with Trump. You know, it just doesn't work. It just, you know, it just doesn't work. So our cycles have this gift inside them that our egos get dissolved, and that feels like a death, and that feels very scary, and it does trigger our self-hatred, because we much prefer the kind of invincible can-do ego to whatever lies underneath. But it's our true self, you know, you can describe it in many ways as your true self, your primary self, or your soul, or whatever language that you like to use about it. There's something real and authentic that wants to come through. And there's a war, there's a war between the ego going, no, that's not acceptable, but they want to come out.
Oh, that's so interesting, because I am very extroverted person. And so, yeah, I tend to feel like that's so, like, it's really making me kind of pause and scratch my head, because I think I've said to myself, oh, the ovulation, that feels like my most truest personality. Like warm and bubbly, but we spend the most time in the luteal phase, and in the luteal phase, I'm very direct. I am very, the stories from my past, or people have said I'm intimidating or aggressive, very straightforward. Yeah, we don't really like women who know what they want or how to achieve that.
What would happen if we all started that all the time?
So yeah, I think as being an extroverted person, I think, I love receiving, it's like those little treats. It's like the little pats on the head. I get way more pats on the head for how I show up in ovulation, way more gold stars than how I show up in the luteal phase.
Yeah, and the way to nourish that the luteal love, what do you call it? The lovely
luteal phase.
The lovely luteal, that's so cute. The lovely luteal phase is to make friends with your inner life, because the spring and the summer prioritize the external. And again, this is another Red School phrase. When you cross that border into the luteal phase, the inner lights come on. So it's your inner life that takes priority there. So if you look at your life as a whole, how much do we value our achievements in the world? And how much do we value our qualitative softness with ourselves or our relationships? Typically, our focus is outward rather than inward. So to redress the balance, we need to make friends with our inner life.
I also wonder too, because I think that's where a lot of that dissonance is for people, like what they're outward facing versus what they actually need. And so sometimes I think for me, it can feel very abrasive, because I've just spent all this time ignoring what my inner self actually needs, because it slides off my back easily during that time. And then it can really come out like, bah! Like during the luteal phase. So how have you thought about, because I think then there's that same patterning with perimenopause, right? We've been maybe spending years and years and years ignoring our inner, and now we kind of get like this like slapping point. So what can we start to do to maybe have more continuity in the outer seasons to respect what the inner season? How do we start to pull those pieces together so it doesn't maybe feel as shocking each luteal phase?
Well, I think what's key is it's paradoxical. To take care of the luteal phase, we have to look at the other phase. We have to really be tender in all the other phases. So the first point is to look at what is the quality of rest in your period or in your winter time. And that may or may not be lying down a lot. That's a sort of classic, as you need to rest and hold out the world. That may or may not be true. And it's mostly not possible in real life. So it's about reducing expectations, slowing down, educating the people around you. So if possible, the people you work with, any housemates or family or kids or whatever, to say, I need to slow down now. This is my winter. This is my bleed. You need to take responsibility for a few days. So that in the winter and in the spring, being really tender and careful with yourself and cherishing that emerging energy. There's something so like the childlike, it's like the sort of the young teenager we were after our menarche. She kind of wants to go out and then she wants to come back, and she just wants to be loved, So if we can bring that sweet kind of tenderness that we would to a 10-year-old or a 13-year-old to ourselves at that point. And in summer, slow. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Is that allowed? Okay.
Yeah,
slow the fuck down. Right? Because in summer we're like, you know, we're Wonder Woman, but it's so easy to get into overdoing and overwhelm. And for many women, it's really overwhelming in that ovulation. It's like standing in a wind tunnel. Mm-hmm. And we need to slow down at that point.
That is so interesting, because I've noticed this pattern where on like my bleed's about, you know, day 1 to day 5, but it's really become so manageable and kind after doing a lot of this other practice. So it's not really painful anymore. I really do a good job of slowing down. But then on day like 5 and 6, because like I've got this estrogen, and I will just blast out of the cannon. And then I find myself, like this has happened 6 cycles in a row. So I'm a slow learner sometimes. But then on day 7, I like crumble into a pile because I am so exhausted because I didn't like ease into it. I was just like, it's back on board. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm sure that's what's happening during ovulation time as well, right? Like so much pushing. And we've got a lot of women in this group who are high achieving, who are business owners, who, you know, can maybe see that time as some of that superpower energy. But if we're pushing it so hard, of course we can feel kind of angry in the luteal phase. We're not protecting ourselves the rest of the time.
Yes, that spring, skipping the spring. So what I see happening, what you're describing, and I see it happening a lot, is we skip straight from winter into summer, and we skip that spring thing.
Yeah. So there's no cautious blooming. It's just like.
Yeah, because, and in real life, you know, we have to-do lists. You know, if we have managed to rest in winter and slow down in winter, then we have this massive kind of internal pressure. Yeah. And I hope it's internal and not external as well, but that often happens, the pressure to just get on with things and just to do things. Yeah. So again, it's, I just had a brilliant idea. What you can do, here's top tip number 1. What you can do is in your luteal phase, write yourself a list of what is important and mail it to yourself to arrive. To arrive after your bleed. Or, you know, post it somewhere, whatever. And then you will get a reality check-in as to what is important. Because she knows, right? That is a really good tip, actually.
Good job.
Because she knows. Or go and ask your friend, you know, if you don't do that, go and ask your friend in the luteal phase and she'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good. I love that. And having it arrive.
Being authentic, being true to yourself, making a difference in the world, taking care of yourself, you know, it's going to be around those themes. And it's certainly not being, I'm just staring out my window, looking at my laundry, thinking, oh, that's been there for 2 days. You know, it's really not about getting the laundry in and, you know, tidying up the house. That really doesn't matter.
Oh, that's powerful. I love that. So yeah, really kind of when you are in that centered, true to yourself place, writing those reminders. Yeah. Okay. So then if we get too far off of this, if we are coming into the springtime and we're blowing right past this, that's a check-in point. That's a time to pause and slow down. Yeah. That is an amazing tool.
And again, it doesn't matter because we will get it wrong, right? You know, you say you've been doing this for the last 6 cycles or whatever. We trip ourselves up for 6 cycles, but you're going to have 400, and I counted them up once, how many I'd had, 430 something cycles. You get another go round, you know, and it's not just present in your menstrual cycle, it's there in your creative cycle, it's there in your daily cycle, it's there in your breath cycle. You know, we have this constant school. It's like an education going on all the time to teach us. So, you know, we can just do it a different way and see what happens. See how we fuck up the next time. Because, you know,
there will be something the next time. So yeah,
let's keep it real here, because there isn't. Although we have this beautiful archetypal cycle, we have personalities, and we have wounds, and we have patterns, and we're here to learn how to heal those.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So you've hit on it a little bit, but I'm curious, like when you got into the cycle work and with your amazing background, What drew you so strongly and so clearly to the luteal phase work?
Well, I was menopausal. So I've been a body psychotherapist for a long time, and I'm a body worker, and I work with pregnancy, and I was very interested in the postnatal phase. And I had a couple of kids, quite late, relatively speaking. So I was 38 and 40 when I had children. So that kind of seeped into the postnatal phase kind of seeped into my postmenopause with a very kind of messy.
That's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. They're very similar in that you're very, your hormones are in shift in both cases. Your musculature changes, you know, everything's in shift. And so I didn't really understand about perimenopause at that time. I just knew I was really angry. Really angry. And so when my youngest went to primary school, when she was, I don't know, 5 or whenever it was, I started to kind of remember that I was a Kate and I was a person and an entity in my own right. And I just happened to get into cycle awareness through, well, I'd worked the body work I learned. We used the peristalsis in the belly as that's emotional digestion. So we listened to the tummy. And then working with pregnancy, obviously, we were working with the womb and womb consciousness. And then the two came together and I learned belly massage. And then I came into womb yoga and learning from Uma Dinsmore-Tuli, and then found Red School. So it all kind of happened right in my perimenopausal phase. So I was kind of, the perimenopause, it's kind of like a 5-10 year long luteal phase. I don't mean to scare you out there. But the more you can practice now by making friends with your shadow and making friends with the parts of yourself that you're not comfortable with, the better equipped you will be. But that's why I got into menopause, because that's where I was and I wanted to understand it, really.
Yeah, it always shows up when, you know, they say the teacher arrives when the student is ready. It just sounds like one of those.
Oh God! Yeah. And I was, you know, I remember I walked into Alexandra's menopause workshop, and she smiled. And I was late and flustered and stuff, and she smiled at me, and I was like, "I'm home." Oh, at last. And the thing that really made me feel at home is I've been taught a lot of theory in my life. You know, a lot of theory about why people do what they do. And this seasonal model is the only theory that has really honestly spoken to me, that I've really honestly able to stand fully behind or fully in, because it's about lived experience. Yeah. You know, other theory that's imposed on is often by middle-aged white men, telling you how your character is developed, and it's often very sort of, what's the word? It's like judgmental, pathological. It's about illness and not about wholeness. And if we look with a seasonal lens on things, it's about becoming whole. It's about accepting the whole thing. And so it's just really handy, and it's intuitive and obvious, and everybody gets it, even men.
Because we understand, like, things have to have that ebb and flow, and when we try to push those bounds, really crappy stuff starts to happen on the planet and for ourselves.
Well, as we were saying earlier, here we are with Corona time, and it feels like the whole world is in this luteal phase. You know, the luteal phase takes us into a place of not knowing. People typically report they don't know where they are. We lose our words, right? We lose the right words to say, and we feel lost. And that is, you know, the whole world is in that place now. Yeah. And it's very frightening. It's very frightening for lots of people. But as people who pay attention to cycles, there are menstrual cycles and life cycles and creative cycles, we have the most amazing tools. We already have the tools because we know about this. You know, we know about this in our bodies, and we can bring the sort of tolerance of not knowing, because we don't know when our periods are going to come. We don't know how long the rage is going to last.
Yeah. But it's okay.
And it's okay because the season always turns.
Yeah.
So there's something about that we learn from looking at our cycles, where we learn to trust the cycle and trusting that the season always turns. And I think that's a real gift that we can bring into our communities at the moment, into our families and communities, to just really say yes, and we can do this. So all the stuff that you know that soothes you in your luteal phase, you can bring in a broader sense in now.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And it is the time to really be bringing these pieces out, and
yeah,
and the people who are already doing this work can start to, or can continue to shine a light for other people who don't have this grounding, or who have been so disconnected from this patterning. And it's a really great time for us to show up, kind of leading the way with this. So everyone in this group, you guys have been doing great work. You've been doing great understanding and peeling back these layers. And so more than ever is the time to lean into all the things that you guys have been learning about. And I think we still may have some skeptics who they've heard this talk so far, and they're like, I see all the fluffiness you talk about the luteal phase. I'm not buying it, Kate. Yeah. How can someone who still feels skeptical maybe start to create that spaciousness or dip a toe into the shadow work? What might that look like if someone still feels pretty resistant? What were maybe could be some of those step 1 or 2 that they could start playing with in the luteal phase?
First off, I would say if you're really resisting it, then you're not alone. You have really good company there, because it's hard. I don't want to soft soap this. It's really hard and it is difficult. But it's going to happen anyway. So you can resist it or you can get curious. You have a choice. So exercise your choice, I would say, what you want to do with it. And if you do want to resist it, then it's going to be hard work and you will be tired. And you'll miss out on all these goodies. You miss out on you miss out on your power and on your discernment, and that is, that's a great shame that you won't be able to bring that to the table. So there's that. But how to get in there to meet the shadow? I think one really interesting way is to meet your inner critic. So typically in the luteal phase in autumn, our critics show up. And quite often they're loud, kind of, they're the big shouty person, and we shrink to 2 inches tall, and we fall apart. So what can be really helpful is, and the more it's like the luteal phase itself, the more we resist and we push them away, the louder they shout. So what I suggest is that you take a moment to have a dialogue with your critic. If you're really fragile, meaning depleted, unsupported, struggling in your life, I would not do this in the luteal phase. I would wait until spring. I would write down what she says and deal with it when you're stronger in the spring or summer. Maybe in the summer would be better, depending on how vulnerable you feel you are. But if you're in a reasonably good place, then you can write down what she says and respond. So you journal through this dialogue. So she may say, you're shit at your job, you're no good, you're just pretending, all that. That's what my critic says, and I think probably everybody's does. They all get together and share notes about what to say.
There's a playbook.
So you write this down, and then you say, well, actually, I know a little bit. I know this. I have this. And then see what she says. And often this is really radical, and the skeptics are just going to be turned off at this point, I'm sure. Well, is that there is gold in there, because when she's shouting, you don't know anything. Quite, if I can stay with that dialogue, quite often she says, she points out where I need to do more work, but she says it in a really horrible way. You know, so it's about building a relationship with her. So some people give her a name, you know, and it might be that it's like a real figure in your life. So it might be a parent, it might be a teacher, it might be somebody real, or a boss, or somebody who's, you know, who you've really had a difficult relationship with, or it might just be a sort of conglomerate critic person. You can give her a name and look for the gold. Or you can do it with, you know, a Gestalt style with cushions. That's another thing. You can take it to your therapist, take it to therapy and do it Gestalt style. So you sit on one cushion, and there's a second cushion for the critic, and you take turns. So you sit on the critic cushion and you say what you need to say, and then you move and you sit and you know. Yeah. But it's about understanding and developing a relationship. And getting curious. Well, why would you think that?
I think for me, there was a lot of, I'm definitely learning to work with a critic, because sometimes I can be everyone's a mirror to us, right? So I can be really harshly critical of other people during the luteal phase, because I'm feeling so critical of myself, and anything I perceive in them as not being up to par mirrors what I think is not up to par in myself, and it can really be unkind, or just like really cutting. And I am so grateful for this work, particularly with the agenda period. There were so many times where I'm like in the luteal phase where I'm like, I gotta quit this project. No one will ever care about the agenda period. This is not a good idea. My dog is charming in. Then she's one of them. Charlie. Hi. You're so loud. So yeah, then I kept realizing there was fear under there. There was fear of being so exposed. There was, you know, some real vulnerability that needed to be addressed and tended to. But it kept shape-shifting. It would be like, well, this milestone is never going to happen. You'll never get 100 beta testers to sign up. And then we did that. And then we started the next phase of it. Well, maybe this many people signed up, but no one's going to pay you actual money to do it. And I'm like, well, then people did pay us money to do it. And then, well, you have the money, but no one's going to buy it after this thing. I'm just like, oh, come on.
That's really astute that you say that, because a primary function of our critics is to keep us safe. Yeah. It's actually, it's to protect, you know, to protect our small ones. And so maybe a good prompt to work with in your journaling would be, what am I keeping myself safe from here? Or if you're talking to your critic, what do you want to protect me from? And just write and see what comes. Yeah. And then you can go, you know, underneath. She feels heard because you're asking her about this. That's another thing you can do. Ask her more questions. So I'm a failure. So in what way am I failing now? You know, to really kind of engage and get curious.
This is so awesome. I'm taking notes for myself.
Good. I think I should take notes for myself as well.
Yeah.
But none of this can happen if we're running around. You know, that we have to create moments of pause to catch that voice and to catch that. And that comes with, you know, a practice of just generally slowing down.
Yeah. Because I think when we don't slow down, it just can feel true.
Yeah.
You know, it just feels like, oh God, she's right. I am doing a horrible job. I need to go do some more stuff. Oh God, I'm really not good enough. Let me go prove something today, instead of like, taking the pause. So that's really, really,
yeah. And we all have different sort of indicators that we're going too fast. So for me, quite often it's scrolling. So when you find me, I've got my phone here, when I'm scrolling, it's because I'm feeling small and I've been rushing around and I'm looking for validation online. You know, that's my, and then I can sometimes I can catch myself and go, oh, okay, I'm just looking for validation here, you know, or that thing where you notice your critic being critical to other people, say, but we can only notice those when we slow down and notice the patterns.
That's awesome. I love how much you brought up the curiosity, the actual taking time to check in, the not just checking in with outside experts, but really checking in with yourself as the experts. And really getting quiet and curious and creating that space. It's just so important. So we've kind of gone all around all sides of this, which has just been such a lovely conversation. But just to put kind of a bow on the entire thing, I would love for you to speak to, for the women who you've seen really take this work seriously during the cycling part of their life, what gets to happen, what gets to open up at that transition from perimenopause and into menopause when we've done the work with the luteal phase before that?
Well, you'll come to a point where, and you'll forget this, because we do, and hopefully you'll be in your late 40s and not earlier than that, when suddenly the estrogenic veil is lifted, right? And you're like, hang on, I'm not doing that. What? And you will find the critics emerge, and you will start to feel, because at that point your ego is dissolving again. Okay, so it's the same process of your ego dissolving, and that has to happen. You know, you can't, I don't want you to feel that if you do it right when you're cycling, then you will have a lovely time. Because it's hard, it's really hard, and anybody in their late 40s and 50s will tell you it's hard. It's rare for it to be easy. But by paying attention in your luteal phase, what you're doing is you are developing this relationship with your shadow. You are, when you come into that place where you're itchy, you're itchy with yourself, and your ego is dissolving or cracking, you'll go, oh, this is my ego cracking. This is my ego cracking. What's that sound? Oh, it's the sound of my ego cracking, you know? And you become familiar with that sense of dissolving. So it's not that you don't feel it or that you avoid it. You're just more skilled, because you've been able to integrate more of yourself through this monthly cycle, so that you're not so afraid of the darkness. I think, yeah. And I'd love to, you know, I don't want to, I want to tell the truth here. I don't want to soft soap it. But that meeting your shadow helps us to love ourselves, you know. And the more that we can be kind, and the more that we can love ourselves through those difficult bits, and even in micro, teeny tiny, specky micro kind of moments, it's still love that we're banking for ourselves, so that we can be kind through the perimenopausal years. Because the perimenopause brings us into a whole new cycle. So you have the autumn of your perimenopause, and the winter, which is like a deep bleed, you know, it's like a deep rest time of surrender. And then you get a whole new cycle, you get a whole new spring, you know, and that this is the kind of missing piece that we don't talk about. That you get to get through menopause, and then you kind of die, probably, you know, age 52. But clearly that's not true. There are loads of women in their 60s, 70s and 80s out there having an absolutely brilliant time. But we don't, no, this is another hour's worth. This is another hour's worth. But we don't see them because we're conditioned to not like aging. We're conditioned to see aging as decay. We're conditioned to see it as a redundancy, as unfeminine, you know. And so we don't see them, but actually there's a whole world of, you know, 30, 40 years worth of having a new cycle, a whole new cycle of second spring, second summer, and another second autumn.
That, it just is so exciting, and it
makes me, isn't that exciting?
It's so exciting, and it's like one of the most fun ways I've ever heard anyone talk about menopause.
Well, that's sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And that's the kind of central thing that I do with menopausal women, is that we give them an embodied experience of that journey through the autumn and through the winter and then into second spring. So of any age, so that you can feel that shift. And you know it anyway, because you do it every month, but you can feel that shift.
Oh my gosh, this has just been so brilliant. And just like kind of the high level things that I'm leaving on is just the curiosity, the bravery to meet yourself. And like, we've got a lot of paradigm shifting and breaking to do here, which is exciting.
Yeah.
As far as we've come, like we got so much work to do around periods, around cycles, around menopause. And so, you know, just a cheers to everyone who's in this space. When you show up bravely, you give people permission to do the same. And you're also helping to heal ancestral wounds and pain from generations of women who haven't, you know, been able to meet themselves in this way. So when we show up for ourselves, we're showing up for a long line. So thank you for your time today. I'm curious if people want to find more from you, because you're freaking amazing. How can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you? Where do you hang out on the line when you're scrolling? So where can our people find you?
You can find me if you look on Facebook. I'm at Kate Codrington, and it's my business page there. And we also have an online perimenopausal retreat in May. Oh, wow. So with my partner in kindness, Leora Lieboff at Womankind, we work together to hold retreats, and we are renowned for holding a really safe space. So it's called Am I Going Mad? Short answer, no, you're not. And we have a 2-week space for you to really drop into this luteal phase. So it will help you think about your luteal phase and about how perimenopause might be.
And we can definitely put those links on this video for people if they want to kind of check that out. But just thank you so much today. And if anyone's got ahas or questions, drop them on this video. We'd love to respond to you. So thank you for hanging out with us while we talk about the lovely luteal phase and seeing how we can transition and what we get to look forward to. And if you're already there, the celebration. It's like a great party. Women are just awesome. So thank you for being a part of this conversation and holding space for this unfolding.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Bye.